Storytime about the boy across the street who used to stalk me. So a little background information. My parents and I moved into a new house that was literally 5 minutes from where I used to live. But I went to private school, and almost all the other kids in my town went to the public school. So I didn't really know a lot of the kids in my town. Well, a week after we moved in, our neighbors across the street invited us to a barbecue. While we were there, I started talking to our neighbor's older son, and him and I started to get along really well, like in a flirty way. Their older son was a senior, I was a sophomore, and their younger son was a freshman. Well, I kind of talked to the younger son, but he was just like giving me really weird vibes. So for the next few weeks, I started hanging out with their older son a lot, and we would talk all the time. Well, the one day whenever I went over their house, it was super weird. His younger brother kept saying, "Oh, I think I know you from somewhere. Like, I swear I know you." And I'm just like, okay. Well, the one morning I was waiting outside for my mom to pick me up because she worked night shifts and she would just grab me and then take me to my school. And I saw him in his window watching me like for part 2. Part 2 about the boy across the street who used to stalk me. So like I said, I saw him watching me outside his window, but I didn't want to overthink it, so I was just like, no, maybe he's looking at something else. Well, this all started a month after I moved in. Well, it started happening more frequently, so then I told his older brother. We're just going to call the younger brother Mac. So he talked to Mac and then everything was fine for a week. Just a little information real quick. For the public school, the bus would arrive at 7:40. My private school started at 7 o'clock. So my mom would come and get me at 6:15 because my school was kind of far away. So like I said, it was a week later. Every morning that I would go outside to wait for my mom, Mac would be standing on his porch watching me. Oh, but it gets worse. So one night I was in my bedroom, right? And this is like some scary movie shit. I kept seeing something run past my window. My bedroom was on the first floor. So I told my dad about it and he put cameras outside. Well, Mac's older brother told me that Mac was always interested in my life. So me being a smart-ass bitch, I told his older brother that our cameras didn't work, like for part 3. Part 3 about the boy that lived across the street who used to stalk me. So like I said, I told his older brother that our cameras didn't work anymore, knowing that he would tell Mac. Because he had it in his head for some reason that Mac wasn't obsessed with me. And the reason why I told him our cameras didn't work was because Mac was watching while the cameras were being set up outside. And after that, everything stopped. Except he would still be outside every single morning on his fucking porch watching me. So the one night while I'm sleeping, I wake up to some noise right outside my window. And my bed was on the same wall as the window, so I could see who was right outside my window, but they couldn't see me. Well, I look, and guess who the fuck it is? It's Mac trying to get inside of my fucking window. So I quietly call my dad, and it's like 3 in the morning. So I tell my dad what's going on. So he goes outside and nobody's there. Well, the next day we check the cameras. There's footage of him jerking off outside my window, trying to break into my room with a fucking crowbar. Luckily, I was staying at a friend's that night. Taking pictures of me outside my window. So we showed his parents. Then we moved and they sent him to a mental hospital.
Storytime. My ex threatened to kill me and then shut down the school with a bomb threat. And it ended up on the news. So me and this guy that we'll call Charlie dated on and off from my freshman to sophomore year. We ended up breaking up because he cheated on me. But during my junior year, he was dating one of my friends who was a senior. He wanted her to go around the school and find a spot for them to make out, but she didn't really feel comfortable with this. So I decided to grab her phone and hide it from her so she wouldn't be able to leave with him. He found out that I had her phone and he approached me. He told me to give it back and I was like, no, it's not your phone. Well, he decides to grab my wrist and threaten me. Later that night, I got a screenshot sent to me saying that I was lucky that he didn't have a knife on him like he normally does. Well, the next day in school, we all walked to the counselor's office, me, his girlfriend, and some other friends who all had screenshots of this text. He literally followed us because we were with his girlfriend. The office gets us set up writing statements about him, but also told us that he would need to write one too. So once he was finished writing his, he leaned over to my friend and then threatened her by pulling out his knife. This is when he blows things quite literally out of proportion, so stay tuned and follow me on Instagram. Storytime part 2. My ex threatened to kill me and then shut down the school with a bomb threat. So after he turns around and threatens my friend who's helping report him, he rushes out of the building and we turn and tell the office lady what he just said. She tried to call for him to get him to come back, but instead he ended up just bolting across the campus. They released my friends and I to go back to class, and everything was normal for about 2 class periods, but then in the hallway on our way to our 3rd period, they made everyone evacuate to the fields. They didn't even tell us why we were being evacuated, and we had to wait out there until it was all cleared for us to go back in, and once we were back in our classrooms, we were told it was a bomb threat. Everyone ended up finding out that it was Charlie who made this threat. It actually came out that he was threatening people with an unknown substance in a vial that he kept in his backpack. Come to find out, it was just makeup, like powdered makeup, that was unmarked. To this day, we don't know why he had makeup in his backpack and why he was saying that it was a bomb, but it was literally all reported on the local news in our city. Follow me for more story times and add me on Instagram for more content.
This story time is from a follower, and she really needs advice. By the way, we're calling her Catherine, and she's 15. So Catherine has one arm, and she had to get her right arm removed due to health conditions. She just started going to a new school because her family moved. She has been there for 3 weeks, and she tried to make new friends, but it seems like every person that she has tried to talk to slowly stops talking to her. Like this one girl, which we're going to call Layla. Catherine talked about her just about every day for the past 2 weeks, but then on the 3rd week, she completely stopped talking to her. Like she wouldn't even say hi. It was like she was avoiding her and she couldn't understand why. She said she gets nasty stares in school and sometimes people laugh behind her back. Catherine said it seems like no one wants to be next to her. She feels alone and she has started going to the bathroom during lunchtime because she didn't want to look weird sitting alone during lunchtime. She says she needs advice on trying to make new friends and she really just wants to fit in. So comment down below some advice. This is part 2 of how my best friend older brother tried to secretly date me. And I was 13 and he was 24. So he messages me asking for me to be his girlfriend and to send nudes. I told him I didn't feel comfortable doing that, but he said if I did not, he was going to break up with me. So I was dumb and I went ahead and sent them because that's what I thought you're supposed to do when you get into a relationship. So for a couple of weeks, we'd text. He'd call me once in a while. My best friend at one point asked me if I wanted to sleep over for the weekend. So I packed my bags and I came over. In the middle of the night, I got really thirsty, so I went to the kitchen to go get some water. As I'm drinking, out of nowhere, something squeezes my breast. And I, of course, got really scared and screamed. I turn around, and it's my best friend, older brother. He tells me, why was I sleeping in her room when I could have just been sleeping with him? And then he pulls me into his bedroom. Now, this is when it gets really crazy. Like for part 3. This is part 3 of how my best friend's older brother tried to secretly date me. I was 13 and he was 24. So like I said, he told me I should be sleeping in his bedroom and pulled me into his room. I was a little nervous because I've never been alone with a guy. When I go to sit down on his computer chair, he locks his bedroom door. He walks over to me, picks me up, and sits me onto his bed. I was like, I'm okay, I can sit on the chair. And he shushes me with his finger to be quiet. Then out of nowhere, he starts taking all of his clothes off. And I mean everything. I ask him, what are you doing? And he's like, come on, I know this is what you want. And I was like, no. And I told him I was going back to bed. I get up to walk to the door and he stops me from getting out and holds onto the door. If y'all want to know what happened after that, let me know down below in the comments. This is part 4 of how my best friend's older brother tried to secretly date me. I was 13 and he was 24. So he was completely unclothed and everything was off. And he was insinuating that we were going to do something. I try to run out of the room and he stops me from leaving. I told him I wanted to go back to bed with my best friend. And he's like, you're my girl and you're staying with me. I started to get really grossed out because he started to get very aggressive. And I was so confused on what was happening, so I just screamed. And he gets so mad at me. My best friend's mom yelled out, is everything okay? And he lets me out of the room. I walk into the hallway and I told her I just stumped my toe. Then I went back into my best friend's room like nothing ever happened. And still to this day, I never told anyone until now.
One day in elementary school, it was lunchtime. A bitch had to go potty. It was poo-poo time. So I remember I went to the restroom and I was exploding or whatever. And these girls walked in. We're gonna call them the Chipettes, okay? This is the best part. So the Chipettes start yelling in the bathroom. Is someone here? Can someone hear me? Like, I didn't say anything. I was literally taking a shit. Like, what? These girls, deadass, start laughing. They turn off the lights in the bathroom. They turn on all the sinks, whatever. And they start saying like Bloody Mary or some shit. And then the Chipettes run out of the bathroom and shut the door. So here I am getting casted on. I remember seeing a shadow. I fell on my ass and I start screaming and crying. It wasn't good. So someone called the janitor. Janitor walks in to check up on me. It's a guy.
So this is about the time that my toxic best friend tried to sleep with my dad. To provide just a little bit of backstory, we'll call this friend Jordan. And I met her over this past summer and it turned out we both had kids around the same age. So of course, wanting my kid to have a little bit of interaction, we decided to do play dates together. Our kids started hanging out so much that we got really, really close. And I honestly considered her to be really trustworthy. So I decided to invite her to this family cookout. And that's when things really hit the fan. From a distance, I saw herself introducing herself to my dad, giving herself a little hair flip and blatantly flirting. I would like to add that Jordan has been happily married for years. So watching this flirting get worse, I decided to confront both of them. I was like, yo, I do not approve of you hooking up with my dad. He's 20 years older than you and you are married. She was like, okay, and I thought it was left at that. So months go by and I have her over to help me take pictures for OnlyFans. I was doing like a little promotion thing and she offered to hop in the pictures with me, which I thought was totally cool. But then her husband comes home to surprise her. And then I kid you not, he looks over her shoulder and sees her sending them to my dad. Like for part 2. Storytime part 2 to my toxic friend trying to sleep with my dad. So after Jordan's husband came home and saw that she was sending my dad the OnlyFans pictures we took, he turned around and got upset with me and accused me of trying to set them up. He told me to get out of the house, but then followed me trying to confront me at the same time. I called my dad soon after to get his point of view from the story, and he said that she just willingly sent him. He never asked for any of them. At least that's just what he claims. And now it's been almost 2 months of this battle, and I've barely been able to speak to my own dad. She has tried multiple times to become my friend again, and I decided to even test her to see if that was possible by giving her some information that was not true to see if she'd tell my dad. My dad knew almost immediately. It's kind of a bummer because her husband was a really cool guy, but I no longer want someone like this in my life. Follow me on Instagram for more content, and if you have a story that you would like to share, DM me.